The Alpha King was called the Merciless for a reason. 3 days ago, he'd executed a nobleman for a single insult at the dinner table. The man had questioned Raphael's judgment on a border dispute, and by sunrise his head decorated the castle gates. 2 weeks before that, the king had rejected 47 marriage proposals in one night, reading each letter aloud to his court, before tossing them into the fire, while the noblewomen who'd written them watched from the gallery, its faces burning with humiliation. No one dared approach him. No one dared even look at him wrong. The servants whispered that he had no heart, that something had died in him years ago when his betrothed betrayed him with his own brother. They said he'd killed them both with his bare hands and vowed never to trust a woman again. Sonia had heard all the stories. She'd seen him once, 2 months ago, at the summer market when he rode through town with his guards. The crowd had parted like water, which lasted only a second before his horse moved on. But that single glance had haunted her for weeks. Those dark eyes, cold and assessing, as if he could see straight through her skin to every secret she carried. She'd shaken it off as paranoia. Why would the king notice her? She was nobody. The youngest daughter of a minor merchant family, was plain-faced and sharp-tongued, the one her parents couldn't marry off no matter how hard they tried. Until 3 weeks ago, when they finally stopped trying to find her a decent match and simply sold her to the highest bidder. Lord Clarence Gardner. 63 years old, 3 dead wives, a reputation for cruelty that made even hardened soldiers uncomfortable. He'd offered her father an obscene amount of gold and a trade contract that would secure her family's business for generations. And her father had accepted before the sun set. The wedding was in 3 days. Sonia sat at the small desk in her chamber, staring at the blank parchment in front of her. The candle beside her had burned down to a stub. Outside, the house was quiet. Her parents were asleep. Her older sister Melinda was in her own home with her decent husband and her 2 children, living the life Sonia had once thought she might have. 4 empty wine cups sat beside the parchment. She'd needed the courage. But what she was about to do was insane, reckless, the kind of thing that could destroy what little reputation she had left. But what did reputation matter when the alternative was spending the rest of her life as Clarence's property? Blake Jordan. The castle guard she'd known since childhood. He'd been kind to her once, years ago, when the other children mocked her for being too tall, too awkward, too much of everything girls weren't supposed to be. He'd told her she was brave, but the way he'd looked at her really looked at her, like she mattered. It had planted a seed of hope she couldn't uproot. Maybe he'd help her. Maybe if she was honest, if she told him everything, if she offered him what Clarence would take by force anyway, Blake would choose her instead. She dipped the quill in ink. Her hand trembled as she began to write. Blake, I don't have much time, so I'll be direct in a way that will probably make you think less of me. I don't care anymore. In 3 days, I'm being forced to marry Lord Clarence Gardner. You know what kind of man he is. You know what will happen to me. I can't do it. I won't. I'm asking you to run away with me. Tonight, if you're willing. Tomorrow, if you need time. But before that wedding happens, I know this is sudden. I know I have no right to ask this of you. But I've thought about you for years, Blake. The way you looked at me in the market last week. I wasn't imagining that, was I? I don't have much to offer you. No dowry, no family support once they discover I'm gone. Just myself. And I'm offering all of it. I dream of your hands on my skin. I want to know what you taste like. I want you to make me yours before anyone else can claim me. Before Clarence touches me and ruins everything I could have been. If you've ever felt anything for me, even a fraction of what I feel for you, meet me at the old mill at midnight tomorrow. We'll leave together. We'll go somewhere he can't find us. And if you don't come, I'll understand. I'll know I imagined it all. But please, please come. Sonia. She read it 3 times, face burning hotter with each pass. It was too much, too desperate, too explicit. She almost crumpled it up. But then she thought of Clarence's hands, thick and scarred, to the way he'd looked at her when her father introduced them, like she was a horse he was purchasing, like she was already his. She folded the letter quickly before she could change her mind, sealed it with wax, and wrote Blake's name on the outside. Then she stood, swayed slightly, the wine hitting harder now, and walked to the door. Her family kept a maid, Janine, who slept in the servants' quarters downstairs. Janine was young, flighty, and the kind of girl who talked too much and paid attention too little. But she ran errands without asking questions, which made her perfect for this. Sonia descended the stairs carefully, clutching the letter. She found Janine in the kitchen, cleaning up from dinner. "Janine," Sonia whispered. The girl jumped, spinning around with wide eyes. "Miss Sonia, you scared me. I need you to deliver something for me. Tonight." Janine frowned. "Tonight? But it's nearly midnight. Miss." "I know." Sonia pressed the letter into her hands, along with 2 silver coins. "Take this to the castle. There's a guard named Blake Jordan. He'll be at the east gate. Give it directly to him. No one else. Do you understand?" Janine looked at the coins, then at the letter, then at Sonia. "Is this about Lord Gardner?" Sonia's throat tightened. "Just deliver it, please." Janine hesitated for only a second before nodding. "I'll go now." "Thank you." Sonia watched her slip out the back door, and then returned to her chamber. She collapsed onto her bed, still dressed, her heart pounding so hard she could feel it in her throat. It was done. Either Blake would come, or he wouldn't. Either way, she'd know by tomorrow night. She closed her eyes and tried not to think about what she'd written, about how desperate she must have sounded, about how he'd probably laugh when he read it. She fell asleep with those thoughts circling like vultures. Janine hurried through the dark streets toward the castle, the letter clutched in one hand. She'd had 3 cups of wine herself earlier that evening, stolen from the kitchen when the cook wasn't looking. Her head was pleasantly fuzzy, and she was only half paying attention to where she was going. The castle loomed ahead, all stone and torchlight. She reached the east gate and looked around for the guard Miss Sonia had mentioned. Blake Jordan. She didn't know what he looked like. Approached the younger one. "Excuse me," approached the younger one. "Excuse me, are you Blake Jordan?" He blinked at her. "No, Blake's off duty tonight. Why?" "Oh," Janine frowned. "I have a letter for him. From my mistress." The guard shrugged. "You can leave it with me. I'll make sure he gets it tomorrow." Janine hesitated. Miss Sonia had said to give it directly to Blake, and he took it, glanced at the name on the envelope, and handed it back to her. "I'm sorry, but I can't let you in. The name on the envelope doesn't match the name on the list." She looked at him, her eyes wide with disbelief. "But I'm the one who sent the letter." He shook his head. "I'm afraid I can't help you. The rules are the rules." She sighed, defeated. "I guess I'll have to try again tomorrow." He nodded and she left the building, her heart heavy with disappointment. He took it, glanced at the name on the front, and nodded. "I'll make sure he gets it." Janine smiled, pocketed her coins, and hurried back home. The guard watched her go. Then he looked at the letter again. Blake Jordan. He walked over to his partner. "Someone left this for Blake. I'll drop it at the barracks." The older guard grunted. Blake's on patrol in the south quarter tonight. Won't be back till dawn." "I'll leave it on his bunk then." "Sure." The younger guard started walking toward the barracks, letter in hand. He made it 3 steps before a voice stopped him cold. "What's that?" The guard turned. Raphael stood in the shadows near the gate, dressed in dark training clothes, a sword strapped to his back. He'd been returning from a late-night ride, something he did when the castle felt too suffocating. The guard immediately bowed. "Your Majesty, it's just a letter for one of the other guards." "Let me see it." The guard's stomach dropped. It's personal correspondence, Your Majesty." Raphael's expression didn't change. "Let me see it." The guard had no choice. He handed it over. Raphael took the letter, studied the name on the front for a moment, then broke the seal without hesitation. The guard looked away, uncomfortable. Raphael unfolded the letter and began to read, and finally looked up. There was something in finally looked up. There was something in his expression the guard had never seen before. Not anger, not amusement, something dangerous. "Who delivered this?" Raphael asked quietly. "A maid, Your Majesty. She said it was from her mistress." "Did she say who her mistress was?" "No, Your Majesty." Raphael looked at the letter again, at the bottom, and a single name, Sonia. He folded it carefully and slipped it into his coat. "Find out who delivered this," he said. "Bring me her name and address within the hour." The guard bowed quickly. "Yes, Your Majesty." Raphael walked away without another word, the letter burning a hole in his pocket. In his private chambers, Raphael read the letter a third time. "I dream of your hands on my skin. I want to know what you taste like. I want you to make me yours before anyone else can claim me." He sat down slowly, still staring at the words. Sonia. He knew exactly who she was. 2 months ago, at the summer market. He'd ridden through the crowd, and everyone had knelt as protocol demanded. Except she'd looked up, just for a second, long enough for him to see the defiance in her eyes, the refusal to be invisible. He'd thought about her every day since. He'd sent men to learn her name, her family, her situation. He'd learned she was unmarried, considered plain by most standards, and sharp-tongued and difficult according to the servants who'd gossiped about her family. He'd learned her father was arranging a marriage to Clarence Gardner. That had enraged him more than he cared to admit. And now, this letter. She'd written it to someone else. That much was obvious. Some guard who didn't deserve a single word she'd put on that page. But the letter had found its way to Raphael instead. He smiled slowly. This was fate. It had to be. Yet she'd written exactly what he'd been waiting to hear, exactly what he'd wanted from her since that moment in the market when she'd dared to look at him like an equal instead of a king. And now he had a choice. He could let the letter reach its intended recipient. Watch her run away with some nobody guard and disappear into a life of mediocrity. Or he could go to her himself, confront her with what she'd written, make her face him, make her prove she meant every word. And the thought sent heat through him that he hadn't felt in years. A knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. "Enter." The guard from earlier stepped inside, bowing low. "Your Majesty, the maid's name is Janine Pruitt. She works for the Maynard family. The letter was sent by their daughter, Sonia Maynard." Raphael stood. "Where do they live?" "The Merchant District, Your Majesty. I can have the address brought to you." "No need. I know where it is." The guard hesitated. "Your Majesty, should I inform the family you'll be visiting?" Raphael smiled, and it was not a kind smile. "No, this will be a surprise." Sonia woke to pounding on the front door. She sat up, disoriented, her head aching from the wine. The room was still dark. The candle had burned out. The pounding came again, louder this time. Voices downstairs. Her father, angry and confused. Her mother, frightened. Footsteps in the hallway. Her door burst open. Her father stood there, face pale. "Get up! And downstairs before he burns the house downstairs before he burns the house down." Her father disappeared. Sonia sat frozen for 3 full seconds. Then she scrambled out of bed, pulling on the first dress she could find. her hands shaking so badly she could barely fasten the buttons. The king. Here. Why? Had something happened to Blake? And had the letter been intercepted? Oh gods! Had someone told the king about her plan to run away? Was she about to be arrested for defying her arranged marriage? She ran downstairs, her heart in her throat. The front room was full of people. Her parents, her sister Melinda, who must have been summoned, several guards standing at attention. And in the center of it all, standing with his hands clasped behind his back, dressed in dark riding clothes, was Raphael. He turned when she entered, while his eyes locked onto hers, and he smiled. It was the most terrifying thing she'd ever seen. "Miss Sonia Maynard," he said, his voice smooth and cold. "We need to talk." Her father stepped forward, bowing so low his forehead nearly touched his knees. "Your Majesty, please forgive any offense my daughter may have caused. She's—" Raphael held up one hand. "Leave us." Her father froze. "Your Majesty, propriety. I said leave us." The room emptied in seconds. Sonia stood alone with the king, and her pulse hammering so hard she thought she might faint. Raphael reached into his coat and pulled out a folded piece of parchment. Her letter. "No." "Do you know what this is?" he asked quietly. She couldn't speak. He unfolded it slowly, his eyes never leaving hers. "Let me refresh your memory," he said, and began to read aloud. "I dream of your hands on my skin. I want to know what you taste like. I want you to make me yours before anyone else can claim me." Heat flooded her face so violently she thought her skin might catch fire. He looked up from the letter. "You wrote this." It wasn't a question. She managed a single word. "Yes." "To a castle guard named Blake Jordan." "Yes." "But he never received it." Her stomach dropped. "What?" Raphael folded the letter and slipped it back into his coat. "Your maid delivered it to the wrong man. She gave it to a guard at the gate. But who gave it to me?" Sonia thought she might be sick. "So you see," Raphael continued, stepping closer, "I find myself in an interesting position." He was close enough now that she had to tilt her head back to look at him. "You wrote these words, these very explicit, very desperate words, and I'm the one who received them." "It was a mistake," she whispered. "Was it?" "I didn't mean—" "You meant every word," he said softly. "Didn't you?" She couldn't answer. He reached out, and his fingers brushing her chin, tilting her face up. 3 days, he said. "That's how long you have before you marry Clarence Gardner." She flinched at the name. "I'm offering you a different option." Her heart stopped. 7 days, Raphael said. "You'll stay in my castle. You'll prove to me that you meant what you wrote in that letter. Every single word. If you succeed, I'll make you my queen. If you fail, you'll return to your family and marry Clarence as planned." Sonia stared at him. "You can't be serious. Do I look like I'm joking?" He didn't. "Why would you—" "Because I've been watching you for months, Sonia. Because when you looked at me in the market, you saw a man, not a king. Because you're the first woman in years who's made me feel anything at all." He stepped even closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "And because that letter told me exactly what I've wanted to hear since the moment I first saw you." Her breath hitched. "So," Raphael said, releasing her chin and stepping back. 7 days, starting now. "And if I refuse?" His smile returned. "Then you marry Clarence in 3 days, and I'll attend the wedding just to watch you realize what you gave up." She wanted to slap him. She wanted to run. She wanted to scream. But most of all, she wanted to know if he was telling the truth. Know if the merciless king actually wanted her. "One condition," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. He raised an eyebrow. You're bargaining with me? If I do this, Clarence gets nothing. You make sure of that. Raphael's smile widened. Done. He turned toward the door, then paused. Pack a bag. My men will collect you within the hour. Wait. Oh, and Sonia? He looked back at her. The room I've prepared for you is right next to mine. I thought you should know. Then he was gone, at the door closing behind him with a finality that sounded like a prison gate. Sonia stood alone in the empty room, her mind racing. What had she just agreed to? The castle was nothing like Sonia had imagined. She'd pictured cold stone and darkness, a fortress built for war. Instead, the halls were lined with tapestries depicting ancient battles. Candles flickered in ornate sconces, and everywhere she looked there were servants moving with quiet efficiency. But none of them would meet her eyes. A maid named Eula had been assigned to her. The woman was older, perhaps 50, with gray hair pulled back severely, and a face that revealed nothing. This way, miss, Eula said, leading her up a winding staircase. Sonia followed, clutching the small bag she'd packed in a daze. Her parents had said nothing when the king's men arrived to collect her. Her father had looked relieved. Her mother had cried silently. Melinda had squeezed her hand and whispered, "No, be careful." Careful. As if there was any way to be careful in a situation like this. They reached the 3rd floor, and Eula stopped in front of a heavy wooden door. Your chambers, miss. She pushed it open. The room was larger than Sonia's entire house. A canopy bed dominated one wall, draped in deep blue fabric. A stone fireplace crackled with fresh flames. Tall windows overlooked the castle grounds, and through them she could see the lights of the city below. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. The king's chambers are through that door. Eula pointed to a door on the far wall that Sonia hadn't noticed. Her stomach dropped. That door connects to his room? Yes, miss. Can it be locked? Eula's expression didn't change. From his side, yes. From yours, no. Of course not. Dinner is in 1 hour, Eula continued. You'll dine with the king, alone. I'll return to help you dress. She left before Sonia could ask any more questions. Sonia sat on the edge of the bed, and her bag still clutched in her hands. 7 days. She had to survive 7 days of whatever test Raphael had planned, or she'd be sent back to marry Clarence. She thought about running. The windows were too high to jump from, but perhaps there was another way out. Some servant's passage. The connecting door opened. Sonia jumped to her feet. Raphael stood in the doorway, leaning against the frame with his arms crossed. He'd changed since the morning, and now wearing a dark shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows and fitted trousers that did nothing to hide the muscle beneath. Settling in? He asked. You didn't knock. It's my castle. She glared at him. That doesn't mean you can just... Can't I? He stepped into the room. You're here because of what you wrote in that letter, Sonia. Or have you forgotten already? Her face burned. I wrote that to someone else. And yet I'm the one who has it. He pulled the letter from his pocket. I unfolded it slowly. Should I read it again? I've nearly memorized it by now. Don't. I dream of your hands on my skin. He read anyway, his voice low and deliberate. I want to know what you taste like. Stop. He looked up, his dark eyes pinning her in place. Why, are you embarrassed? Yes. Good. You should be. He folded the letter and tucked it away. Those are bold words, Sonia. The kind of words that demand proof. I didn't write them to you. But you wrote them, just which means you're capable of wanting something that badly. He stepped closer. My question is whether you're capable of actually taking it. She lifted her chin. What do you want from me? I already told you. 7 days. Prove you meant what you wrote. How? His smile was slow and dangerous. We'll start tonight. Dinner. Just the two of us. Let's see if you can manage a conversation without running away. I'm not afraid of you. Liar. He was right. She was terrified. I tilt her head back. To maintain, I rejected 47 marriage proposals in that time. You executed a man 3 days ago for insulting you. He deserved it. You rejected 47 marriage proposals in one night and humiliated every woman who'd written to you. They were marrying the crown, not the man, and I have no patience for that. And you think I'm different? He reached out, his hand cupping her jaw with a gentleness that contradicted everything she'd heard about him. I know you are, he said quietly, because you looked at me in that market like I was just a man, not a king, not a monster, just a man. His thumb brushed across her cheekbone. And because when you wrote that letter, you were willing to throw away everything for the chance at something real, not even if it was with the wrong person. Sonia's breath caught. 1 hour, Raphael said, stepping back. Wear something nice. I want to look at you across the table and remember why I'm doing this. He left through the connecting door, closing it softly behind him. Sonia stood frozen for a long moment. Then she sat down hard on the bed, her hand pressed to her jaw where he'd touched her. This was going to be a very long 7 days. Day 1, dinner. Eula returned exactly 1 hour later with 3 dresses draped over her arm. The king sent these, she said, laying them across the bed. He thought you might need options. Sonia stared at them. They were beautiful. Deep emerald silk, soft gray velvet, rich burgundy with gold embroidery. The kind of dresses she'd never owned, could never afford. He chose these himself, she asked. Yes, miss. Something twisted in Sonia's chest. She pushed it away. The green one, she said. Eula helped her dress, pulling the fabric tight across her torso, arranging her hair so it fell in soft waves over her shoulders. When Sonia looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. She looked like someone who belonged in a castle. She looked like someone a king might want. He's waiting, Eula said. Sonia followed her through the corridors to a small private dining room she hadn't known existed. It was intimate, with only 1 table, 2 chairs, and candles everywhere. Raphael stood when she entered. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then he smiled. You wore the green. You sent it. I was hoping you'd choose it. It matches your eyes. She hadn't known he'd noticed her eyes. He pulled out her chair. She sat, hyper-aware of how close he stood behind her, the warmth of his hands on the back of her chair before he moved away. Servants brought food, roasted meat, fresh bread, vegetables and butter. Wine that smelled like summer. Raphael dismissed them with a gesture. They were alone. Eat, he said. Sonia picked up her fork, but her appetite had vanished. You're nervous, Raphael observed. Wouldn't you be? If I were dining alone with someone who held my future in his hands? Yes. He cut into his meat. But I'm not the one being tested here. Aren't you? He looked up, interested. Explain. Sonia set down her fork. You say you want me to prove I meant what I wrote. But what are you proving? That you're capable of more than cruelty? That there's actually a man underneath the monster everyone fears? His expression darkened. Be careful. Why? Will you execute me for speaking honestly? No. He leaned back in his chair, studying her. But I might like you more than I should, and that's dangerous for both of us. The admission hung between them. Tell me about Clarence, Raphael said abruptly. Sonia flinched. What about him? Why did your father agree to the marriage? Money. A trade contract. The usual reasons parents sell their daughters. And you had no say in it? When have women ever had a say? Raphael's jaw tightened. You have a say now. Do I? You're giving me a choice between you and Clarence. That's not freedom. That's just a prettier cage. Would you prefer I send you home tonight? Let you marry him in 3 days? No. Then what do you want, Sonia? The question struck her like a physical blow. What did she want? I want... She stopped, just trying to find words for something she'd never been allowed to name. I want to choose, not between two men who've already decided what I'm worth, but to choose myself, my own life, my own path. And if I offered you that? Complete freedom, a house of your own, enough money to live independently, no strings attached. Would you take it? She stared at him. You'd do that? Answer the question. Would she? A month ago, the answer would have been yes without hesitation. But now, I'm sitting across from him in candlelight, watching the way the shadows played across his face. She wasn't sure. I don't know, she said honestly. Raphael smiled. Good. Good. If you'd said yes immediately, I'd know you were lying. If you'd said no, I'd know you were a fool. He reached across the table, his fingers brushing hers. But I don't know means you're actually thinking about it. About me. His touch sent warmth up her arm. 7 days, he said again. By the end, you'll know. They ate in silence for a while. Sonia found her appetite returning, though she suspected it had less to do with the food and more to do with the way Raphael kept watching her, as if she were something rare he was afraid might disappear. Why were you watching me? She asked suddenly. At the market. Because you looked up. That's not a reason. It is. He set down his wine. Everyone kneels. Everyone keeps their eyes down. It's protocol, and it's expected, and it's safe. But you looked at me anyway. Just for a second. And in that second I saw defiance, courage, a refusal to be invisible. He paused. I've been surrounded by people who fear me my entire life, Sonia. But you looked at me like an equal. Like I was just a man you were deciding whether or not to trust. I didn't trust you. I know. That's what made it perfect. Sonia didn't know what to say to that. The dinner continued. They talked about small things, her family's business, and his frustrations with court politics, her embarrassment over the letter, his amusement at her embarrassment. By the time the servants cleared the plates, something had shifted. She wasn't as afraid anymore, and that terrified her more than anything. Raphael stood, offering his hand. Walk with me. She took it, letting him pull her to her feet. They walked through the castle corridors in silence, his hand warm around hers. Servants passed them and quickly looked away, and guards saluted but said nothing. They reached her chamber door. Tomorrow, Raphael said, still holding her hand, you'll attend court with me. On my arm, the entire kingdom will see you. Her stomach dropped. Why? Because I want them to. Because you're mine for the next 7 days, and I don't hide what's mine. I'm not yours. His thumb traced slow circles on the back of her hand. Not yet. Then he brought her knuckles to his lips, his eyes locked on hers, and kissed them softly. A heat flooded through her. He released her hand and stepped back. Sleep well, Sonia. He turned to leave. Raphael. He stopped, looking back. Thank you, she said quietly. For dinner. His smile was genuine this time. You're welcome. He disappeared into his own chambers, the connecting door closing with a soft click. Sonia stood in the hallway for a moment, her hand still tingling where he'd kissed it. Then she went inside, closed the door, and leaned against it. 1 day down, 6 to go. At day 2, the court. Sonia woke to sunlight streaming through her windows and Eula standing beside the bed with another dress. "The king requests your presence at court in 1 hour, miss." Sonia sat up, her stomach already churning. "What does that mean?" "You'll stand beside him during the morning session. The nobles will see you. They'll talk." "About me?" Eula's expression was carefully neutral. "Yes, miss." "Wonderful." The dress Eula brought was stunning. Deep blue silk with silver embroidery, a high neckline, long sleeves. Modest but unmistakably expensive. "He chose this too?" Sonia asked. "Yes, miss." "Of course he did." An hour later, Sonia stood outside the throne room, her heart pounding. The doors opened. Raphael stood inside, dressed in formal black with a silver crown she hadn't seen him wear before. He looked every inch the king. He saw her and smiled. "Come," he said, extending his hand. She walked to him on shaking legs. He took her hand, tucked it into the crook of his arm, and led her to the raised platform where 2 thrones sat. 2. "Sit," he said, gesturing to the smaller throne beside his. "I can't." "You can. You will." She sat, her hands gripping the armrests so hard her knuckles went white. The doors opened again, and nobles began filing in. The whispers started immediately. "Oh, who is she? Why is she beside the king? Is that the Maynard girl? The plain one?" Sonia's face burned. Raphael's hand covered hers on the armrest, his grip firm. "Eyes forward," he murmured. "Don't let them see you flinch." She forced herself to breathe. The session began. Disputes were brought before Raphael, land disagreements, trade complaints, requests for titles. He handled each with efficiency, his voice calm and authoritative. And through it all, his hand stayed on hers. "Oh, to your companion." Raphael's expression was a mix of surprise and confusion. "I'm sorry, I don't understand. Who is this companion you're referring to?" Raphael's voice was calm, but his eyes were wide with curiosity. "It's a woman," Raphael said, his voice dropping to a whisper. "She's been following us for a while now. She's been watching us from the shadows." Raphael's expression was a mix of surprise and confusion. "I'm sorry, I don't understand. Who is this companion you're referring to?" Raphael's voice was calm, but his eyes were wide with curiosity. "It's a woman," Raphael said, his voice dropping to a whisper. "She's been following us for a while now. She's been watching us from the shadows." Raphael's expression was a mix of surprise and confusion. "I'm sorry, I don't understand. Who is this companion you're referring to?" Raphael's voice was calm, but his eyes were wide with curiosity. "It's a woman," Raphael said, his voice dropping to a whisper. "She's been following us for a while now. She's been watching us from the shadows." Raphael's expression was a mix of surprise and confusion. "I'm sorry, I don't understand. Who is this companion you're referring to?" Raphael's voice was calm, but his eyes were wide with curiosity. "It's a woman," Raphael said, his voice dropping to a whisper. "She's been following us for a while now. She's been watching us from the shadows." Raphael's expression was a mix of surprise and confusion. "I'm sorry, I don't understand. Who is this companion you're referring to?" Raphael's voice was calm, but his eyes were wide with curiosity. "It's a woman," Raphael said, his voice dropping to a whisper. "She's been following us for a while now. She's been watching us from the shadows." Raphael's expression was a mix of surprise and confusion. "I'm sorry, I don't understand. Who is this companion you're referring to?" Raphael's voice was calm, but his eyes were wide with curiosity. "It's a woman," Raphael said, his voice dropping to a whisper. "She's been following us for a while now. She's been watching us from the shadows." Raphael's expression was a mix of surprise and confusion. "I'm sorry, I don't understand. Who is this companion you're referring to?" Raphael's voice was calm, but his eyes were wide with curiosity. "It's a woman," Raphael said, his voice dropping to your companion. Raphael's expression didn't change. "Lady Sonia Maynard. She's my guest." "How lovely." The woman's eyes raked over Sonia. "And will she be staying long?" "As long as I wish her to." The woman's smile tightened. "Of course, Your Majesty." She left, and Sonia felt like she'd just survived a battle, and it continued for 2 hours. Nobles approached, asked questions, made thinly veiled comments, and through it all, Raphael kept her hand in his, a silent claim that no one dared challenge directly. When the session finally ended and the nobles filed out, Sonia slumped in the throne. "That was horrible," she muttered. "You did well. They hate me. They're jealous of you." Raphael stood, pulling her to her feet. "But there's a difference. Why did you make me do that?" "Because I wanted them to see you, to know you're under my protection." His hand cupped her face. "No one will touch you now, Sonia. Not Clarence. Not anyone." She wanted to argue, to tell him she didn't need his protection. But the truth was she did, and he'd just given it to her in front of the entire court. "Come," he said. "I have something to show you." He led her through the castle to a wing she hadn't seen before, but they climbed a narrow staircase and emerged onto a balcony overlooking the city. The view was breathtaking. "I come here when I need to think," Raphael said, leaning against the railing. "When the crown gets too heavy." Sonia joined him, the wind pulling at her hair. They stood in silence for a while. "Why me?" she asked finally. "You could have any woman in the kingdom. Why choose someone like me? Someone like you? Plain, difficult, not—" "Stop!" His voice was sharp. "Oh, don't do that." "Do what?" "Diminish yourself." He turned to face her. "You're not plain, Sonia. You're striking. You have a face that demands attention, even if you don't see it. And you're not difficult. You're honest. You say what you think instead of what people want to hear." He stepped closer. "And that letter you wrote? That desperate, beautiful letter? It told me you're capable of wanting something so badly you'd risk everything for it. That's not plain." He kissed her then. Sudden and firm. His hand 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 then, 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 sudden and firm. His hand then kissed her then, sudden and firm, his hand sliding into her hair. Sonia froze for half a second before her body made the decision her mind couldn't. She kissed him back. His other hand found her waist, pulling her closer, and she went willingly, her fingers curling into his shirt. The kiss deepened, his tongue brushing against hers, and a sound escaped her throat that she'd never made before. Raphael pulled back slightly, his forehead resting against hers, both of them breathing hard. 2 days, he said roughly. You've been here 2 days and you're already ruining me. Sonia couldn't form words. He kissed her again, softer this time, then stepped back before she could pull him closer. Tonight, he said. Dinner again. But this time I want to hear about you, your dreams, your fears, and everything you've never told anyone. Why? Because I want to know you, all of you. He left her on the balcony, her lips still tingling, her heart racing. 2 days down, 5 to go. And she was already in far deeper than she'd ever planned to be. Day 3, the bath. The third day started quietly. Sonia spent the morning in her chambers, trying to make sense of what was happening to her. She'd come here expecting a test, a series of impossible tasks designed to humiliate her. Instead, that evening, Sonia felt oddly disappointed. Sonia felt oddly disappointed. She decided to take a bath. The bathing chamber connected to her room was larger than her childhood bedroom. A massive tub sat in the center, already filled with steaming water that smelled of lavender. She undressed slowly, sinking into the heat with a sigh. For the first time in days, she let herself relax. Up she closed her eyes, letting the water soothe muscles she hadn't realized were tense. She didn't hear the connecting door open. She didn't hear footsteps. She only realized she wasn't alone when a voice said, "I didn't expect to find you here." Sonia's eyes flew open. Raphael stood in the doorway of the bathing chamber, still in his riding clothes, dust on his boots. She sank lower in the water, her arms crossing over her chest. "Get out. It's my castle. I don't care, I'm bathing, and I can see that." He didn't move, didn't look away. "Raphael, please. You're beautiful." The words stopped her cold. "What?" He stepped into the room, his eyes locked on hers. "I said you're beautiful, even like this, especially like this. No pretense, no armor, just you." "I'm naked," she said weakly. "I know." He moved closer, stopping at the edge of the tub. "And I should leave. I know I should. But I can't seem to make myself move." Sonia's heart was pounding so hard, she thought it might break through her ribs. Raphael knelt beside the tub, his face level with hers. "Tell me to leave," he said quietly. "If you want me to go, say it. I will." She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and brushed a wet strand of hair from her face. "You have no idea what you do to me," he murmured. No idea how hard it is to keep my hands to myself when you're this close." His thumb traced her jawline. "Tell me to leave, Sonia." She should. She knew she should. But instead she heard herself whisper, "Stay." Something dark and hungry flashed in his eyes. He leaned in, his lips brushing against hers, soft at first, then deeper when she didn't pull away. His hand slid to the back of her neck, holding her steady as he kissed her with an intensity that made the water feel cold by comparison. But Sonia's hands found his shirt, gripping the fabric, pulling him closer even though he was still dressed, and she was very much not. He pulled back, both of them breathing hard. "This is a very bad idea," he said roughly. "I know. You're in a bath. I'm supposed to be a gentleman. Are you a gentleman?" His smile was wicked. Not even a little. He kissed her again, his hand sliding from her neck to her shoulder, his thumb brushing against her collarbone. Sonia made a sound that was half gasp, on both regret. He stood abruptly. Or that both regret. He stood abruptly. Or that you'll regret. I'd have no regrets at all. He turned toward the door, then stopped. "Tomorrow," he said without looking back. "We're attending a ball. The nobles are expecting it. You'll dance with me." "I can't dance well." "I don't care." He left. Sonia sat in the cooling water, and her entire body trembling. 3 days. Only 3 days, and she was already lost. Day 4, the ball. Sonia stared at the gown Eula had laid across her bed. It was the most beautiful thing she'd ever seen. Midnight blue silk that shimmered like starlight, with a neckline that dipped lower than anything she'd ever worn, and a skirt that would pool around her feet when she walked. "I can't wear this," she said. "The king chose it himself," Eula replied. "Now, he was very specific about the color. It's too much. It's a ball, miss. It's supposed to be too much." 2 hours later, Sonia stood in front of the mirror and barely recognized herself. The dress fit perfectly, hugging her waist before flowing out in elegant waves. Eula had pinned her hair up, leaving a few curls to frame her face. There was color in her cheeks for once, whether from nerves or the wine Eula had insisted she drink for courage. A knock at the connecting door made her jump. "Come in," she called. Raphael entered and stopped dead. For a long moment, he just stared at her. "Say something," Sonia said nervously. "If I say what I'm thinking, we won't make it to the ball." Heat rushed to her face. He crossed the room slowly, his eyes never leaving hers. When he reached her, he took her hand and brought it to his lips. "You're stunning," he said against her knuckles. "And every man in that ballroom is going to hate me tonight." "You're exaggerating." "I'm not." He turned her hand over, pressing a kiss to her palm that made her breath catch. "Ready?" "No." "Good, neither am I." The ballroom was enormous, filled with nobles in their finest clothing. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, candles everywhere, and musicians playing something soft and elegant. Every head turned when they entered. Raphael kept her hand tucked in his arm as they descended the stairs. The whispers started immediately, louder than at court. "That's her? The king brought her? She's not even pretty." Sonia's steps faltered. Raphael's hand covered hers, his grip firm. "Eyes on me," he murmured. "No one else matters." She forced herself to breathe. They reached the dance floor. Raphael turned to face her, one hand on her waist, the other holding hers. "I told you I can't dance well," she whispered. Oh, then follow my lead. The music swelled, and they began to move. Sonia stumbled on the first step. Raphael caught her easily, his hand tightening on her waist. Relax. I've got you. She tried, but everyone was watching, and she could feel their judgment like a physical weight. Look at me, Raphael said quietly. Only me. She met his eyes, and suddenly the rest of the room faded. They moved together. His hand She turned, and Sonia caught a glimpse of the turned, and Sonia caught a glimpse of the crowd watching them. Some faces showed curiosity, others showed disdain, and one face showed pure hatred. A woman in crimson silk stood at the edge of the dance floor, her eyes fixed on Sonia with an intensity that made her skin crawl. Who is that? Sonia asked. Raphael followed her gaze, and his expression hardened. Lady Laverne Chavez. She proposed to me 3 months ago. I rejected her. She looks like she wants to kill me. She does. Ignore her. The music ended. Raphael bowed, Sonia curtsied, and they stepped off the dance floor. Immediately, nobles swarmed them. Your Majesty, might I have a word? Your Majesty, about the trade agreement. Your Majesty! Raphael held up a hand. Later, and all of you. He led Sonia toward a quieter corner of the ballroom, snagging 2 glasses of wine from a passing servant. Here, he said, handing her one. You look like you need it. She drank half the glass in one gulp. Raphael smiled. Breathe, Sonia. They all hate me. They don't know you well enough to hate you. They're just surprised. Why? Because you're not what they expected. You're not some simpering noblewoman trying to charm her way into my bed. You're real, and that terrifies them. Before Sonia could respond, Lady Laverne appeared in front of them. Your Majesty, she said, her voice sweet as poison. What a lovely surprise to see you've brought a guest. Raphael's expression was ice. Lady Laverne. Laverne turned to Sonia, her smile sharp. And you must be the merchant's daughter everyone's talking about. How brave of you to attend. Though I must say that dress is quite ambitious for someone of your background. Sonia's hand tightened on her wineglass. Careful, Laverne, Raphael said quietly. You're speaking to someone under my protection. Of course, Your Majesty. I meant no offense. Laverne's eyes glittered. I'm simply curious how a common girl managed to catch your attention when so many others have failed. She didn't have to try, Raphael said. That's the difference. Laverne's smiles faltered. Now, if you'll excuse us, Raphael continued, I'd like to enjoy the evening without your company. Laverne's face went red. She curtsied stiffly and left, her silk skirts snapping behind her. Sonia let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Thank you, she said. Don't thank me. She deserved worse. Raphael set down his wine. Come, I want to show you something. He led her out of the ballroom, through corridors and up staircases, until they emerged onto a balcony overlooking the castle gardens. The night air was cool and clean after the stuffiness of the ballroom. Music drifted up from below, softer now, almost dreamlike. Better? Raphael asked. Much. They stood at the railing in comfortable silence. Can I ask you something? Sonia said finally. Anything. What happened? With your betrothed? Raphael's expression shuddered. Who told you about that? Servants talk. I heard she betrayed you. He was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then he said, her name was Claudia. We were engaged for 2 years. I thought... He stopped. It doesn't matter what I thought. She was sleeping with my brother the entire time. When I found out, I killed them both. His voice was flat, emotionless. Everyone thinks that's why I'm merciless, he continued. Why I don't trust anyone. And they're right. After Claudia, I swore I'd never let anyone close enough to hurt me again. He turned to look at Sonia. And then you looked at me in that market. And I couldn't stop thinking about you. Couldn't stop wondering what it would be like to trust someone again. Sonia's throat was tight. I'm not her. I know, that's why I'm terrified. He reached out, his hand cupping her face with a gentleness that contradicted everything she'd heard about him. You could destroy me, Sonia, so easily. And I think I'd let you. She didn't know what to say to that, so she kissed him instead. Raphael made a sound low in his throat and pulled her closer, and his hands sliding into her hair, ruining Eula's careful work. Sonia didn't care. She pressed against him, her hands gripping his shoulders, and kissed him with everything she'd been holding back for 3 days. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Raphael rested his forehead against hers. 4 days, he said roughly. You've been here 4 days, and I'm already lost. So am I, she whispered. He kissed her again, deeper this time, his hands on her waist, pulling her against him until she could feel every inch of him. And then she felt something else, something firm and unmistakable pressed against her hip. Sonia froze. Raphael pulled back immediately, his jaw tight. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have... It's fine. It's not fine. You're not... We're not... He stepped back, running a hand through his hair. I need to walk away before I do something we'll regret. Would you regret it? His eyes locked on hers, dark and hungry. Not for a second, but you might. And I can't. I won't do that to you. He turned and left her on the balcony, disappearing back into the castle. Sonia stood there for a long time, her lips still tingling, her body still humming with want she'd never felt before. 4 days down, 3 to go. And she was starting to realize that she didn't want to leave. Day 5. The mother. Sonia woke to Eula standing beside her bed, looking more serious than usual. The king requests your presence, miss. Immediately. Sonia sat up, alarm shooting through her. What's wrong? His mother is ill. He's asked you to accompany him to see her. 20 minutes later, Sonia stood outside a chamber in the oldest wing of the castle. Raphael waited for her, dressed simply in dark trousers and a white shirt. No crown, no formal clothing. He looked exhausted. Thank you for coming, he said quietly. Of course. Is she... Dying. She's been dying for months. The healers say she has weeks left at most. Sonia's heart clenched. I'm so sorry. She wants to meet you. I told her about you and she insisted. He paused. She's the only person whose opinion I actually care about. So if she hates you, I understand. He opened the door. The chamber was warm, a fire crackling in the hearth. An older woman lay in the bed, her hair silver, and her face lined but still beautiful. Her eyes were sharp and clear when they landed on Sonia. So you're the one, she said, her voice stronger than Sonia expected. Mother, this is Sonia Maynard. Sonia, my mother, Queen Christie. Sonia curtsied deeply. Your Majesty. Come closer, child. I want to see you properly. Sonia approached the bed. Christie studied her for a long moment. You're not what I expected. I rarely am, Your Majesty. A smile tugged at Christie's lips. Sit, both of you. Raphael pulled a chair close to the bed. Sonia took the one beside him. My son tells me you wrote him a love letter by accident, Christy said. Sonia's face burned. That's... Yes, Your Majesty. And that you're here for 7 days to prove you meant what you wrote. Yes. Do you? Mean it? Sonia glanced at Raphael, then back at Christy. I didn't when I wrote it. It was meant for someone else. And now? The question hung in the air. Sonia took a breath. Oh, now I'm not sure what I mean anymore. But I know I don't want to leave. Christy's smile widened. Good answer. She looked at Raphael. I like her. Relief crossed Raphael's face so clearly that Sonia's chest ached. She's honest, Christy continued. That's rare. Most people tell me what they think I want to hear. She reached out a thin hand toward Sonia. Take my hand, child. Sonia did. My son is difficult, Christy said. He's been hurt, and he's built walls so high I sometimes wonder if anyone will ever scale them. But I see the way he looks at you, the way he softens when you're near. She squeezed Sonia's hand. Don't let him push you away when he gets scared. Because he will get scared. He'll convince himself you're better off without him, that he's too damaged, too dangerous. When that happens, you hold on tight. Do you understand? Sonia's throat was tight. Yes, Your Majesty. Good. Christy released her hand and looked at Raphael. You may go. I want to speak with Sonia alone. Raphael stood immediately. Mother, out. He left, shooting Sonia a look that was half concern, half amusement. When the door closed, Christy's expression turned serious. He loves you, she said simply. He doesn't know it yet, or maybe he does and he's too stubborn to admit it. But I've known my son for 35 years, and I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. Sonia didn't know what to say. The question is, Christy continued, do you love him? I don't know. It's only been 4 days. Love doesn't follow a schedule, child. Sometimes it takes years. Sometimes it takes seconds. Christy leaned back against her pillows, her eyes drifting closed. But I can tell you this. If you're going to break his heart, do it now, before he's in too deep. He won't survive another betrayal. I don't want to break his heart. Then don't. Christy's eyes opened, sharp and clear. Stay. Fight for him. Love him even when he makes it difficult. Because he will. But underneath all that armor, there's a good man. A man worth fighting for. She paused. Promise me you'll try. Sonia felt tears prick her eyes. I promise. Good, Christy smiled. Now send my son back in. I'm tired. Sonia stood, curtsied, and left. Raphael was pacing outside the door, and back. What did she say to you, after I back? What did she say to you, after I left? Sonia smiled. That's between me and your mother. He studied her for a moment, then smiled back. Fair enough. He went inside. Sonia walked back to her chambers slowly, Christy's words echoing in her head. He loves you. 5 days. Only 2 left. And she still had no idea what she was going to do. Day 6. The betrayal. The 6th day started with sunlight and ended with heartbreak. Sonia spent the morning with Raphael, walking through the castle gardens, talking about nothing important. He told her about his childhood, about learning to fight, about the first time he'd held a sword. She told him about her family, about growing up in her sister's shadows, about the moment she realized she'd never fit the mold everyone expected. And they laughed. They argued about trivial things. They kissed against a tree when no one was watching. It felt normal, easy. It felt like something that could last. That afternoon, Raphael was called away to meet with his council. Sonia returned to her chambers to rest. She was sitting by the window when she heard voices in the corridor. Raphael's voice, and others. She moved closer to the door. Your Majesty, the council is unanimous, a man's voice said. This, a dalliance with the Maynard girl has gone on long enough. It's not a dalliance, Raphael's voice, cold. Then what is it? You can't possibly be considering marrying her. Why not? She's a merchant's daughter. No title, no lands, no political value whatsoever. The nobility will never accept her as queen. I don't care what they accept. You should care. You need alliances, Your Majesty. Strong marriages that secure borders and trade routes, not a common girl you found amusing for a week. Silence. Then another voice, older. We're not saying you can't keep her, Your Majesty. As a mistress, she'd be perfectly acceptable. But as a queen, get out. Your Majesty. I said get out, all of you. Footsteps, doors closing. Sonia stood frozen, her hand over her mouth. Not suitable. Common girl. As a mistress, perfectly acceptable. She'd known. Of course she'd known. She was a merchant's daughter. What had she been thinking? That a king would actually marry her? That this was anything more than a game to him? She turned away from the door, her eyes burning. An hour later, Raphael knocked on the connecting door. Sonia, can I come in? She didn't answer. He entered anyway. What's wrong? He asked immediately. Nothing. Don't lie to me. She turned to face him. I heard your counsel. In the hallway. His expression darkened. You were listening? I didn't mean to, but I heard enough. She crossed her arms. They're right, aren't they? I'm not suitable. I never was. That's not... What were you planning, Raphael? To keep me here for 7 days and then what? Send me home? Keep me as a mistress? No. Then what? Marry me despite what everyone says? Ruin your kingdom for a common girl you barely know? He stepped closer. Yes. She stared at him. Yes, he repeated. I would marry you. I would ruin the kingdom if that's what it took. Market. Since you looked at me like I was market. Since you looked at me like I was human. He reached for her hands. And these 6 days have only confirmed what I already knew. That I want you. Not for a week. Not as a mistress. As my wife. As my queen. Sonia's breath caught. But I can't force you to want that, Raphael continued. So tomorrow, on the 7th day, go. And I'll attend your wedding to go. And I'll attend your wedding to Clarence just to torture myself with what I lost. I'm not marrying Clarence. Then who? She didn't have an answer. Raphael released her hands and stepped back. Think about it tonight. Tomorrow, you decide. He left. Sonia sat on the edge of her bed, her mind spinning. Tomorrow. One more day. And she still didn't know what she wanted. Day 7. The choice. Sonia woke before dawn. She hadn't slept. She'd spent the entire night pacing, thinking, trying to make sense of everything. In 7 days, her entire life had changed. A week ago, she'd been a desperate woman writing a drunken letter to escape a nightmare. Now she was sitting in a castle being offered a crown by a man who looked at her like she hung the stars. It was insane. It was impossible. It was everything she'd never let herself want. She dressed in the simplest dress she had, the one she'd arrived in, and packed her small bag. Then she sat and waited for sunrise. When the light began to creep through her windows, there was a knock at the door. Come in, she called. Eula entered, her expression carefully neutral. The king is waiting for you in the throne room, miss. Sonia stood, shouldering her bag. Eula's eyes dropped to it. Will you be needing that, miss? I don't know yet. She followed Eula through the quiet castle. Most of the servants were still asleep. The halls were empty. They reached the throne room. Eula opened the door and stepped aside. Sonia walked in alone. Raphael stood in front of his throne, dressed formally in black, his crown on his head. He looked every inch the king. And when he saw her bag, something flickered in his eyes that looked like pain. "You've decided," he said quietly. "And I have questions first." "Ask them." She set down her bag and walked toward him. "Your counsel was right. I'm not suitable. I have no training, no connections, no idea how to be a queen. I'll teach you. The nobility will hate me. They'll learn to respect you. Your mother is dying. You need strong alliances. I need you more." Sonia stopped a few feet away from him. "Why? Why me, Raphael? Why someone like me when you could have anyone?" He stepped down from the platform. "Like I was just a man. A man you were like I was just a man. A man you were deciding whether to trust." He took her hands. "And because when I'm with you, I don't have to be the merciless king. I can just be Raphael, someone who laughs and argues and kisses you in gardens when no one's watching." His thumb brushed across her knuckles. "You make me human again, Sonia. And I didn't realize how much I'd missed that until I met you." Sonia's eyes were burning. "So yes," Raphael continued, "you're not suitable by their standards. But by mine, you're perfect." He released one of her hands and reached into his coat, pulling out a folded piece of parchment. Her letter. "You wrote that you wanted someone to make you theirs before anyone else could claim you," he said. "I'm asking you to let me be that person, not for 7 days. Forever." He knelt. Sonia's breath stopped. "Marry me," Raphael said. "Be my queen. Be my wife. Be mine." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "And if you say no," he continued, "I'll still give you everything I promised. A house, freedom, whatever you need. But I'll spend the rest of my life regretting that I let you walk away." Sonia looked down at him, this powerful, terrifying, impossible man kneeling at her feet, and realized something. She'd spent her whole life trying to fit into boxes that were never meant for her. It's too tall, too plain, too difficult. But Raphael didn't see any of that. He just saw her. "Yes," she whispered. Raphael's head snapped up. "What?" "Yes. I'll marry you." He was on his feet in an instant, his hands cupping her face, his eyes searching hers. "You're sure?" "No. I'm terrified. But I'm sure about you." He kissed her then, deep and desperate, his arms wrapping around her, lifting her off her feet. When he finally set her down, both of them were breathless and smiling. "You're going to be a terrible queen," he said. "I know. The council is going to hate this. I know. I don't care. I know." He kissed her again, softer this time. Then he took her hand and led her toward the connecting door to his chambers. "Where are we going?" she asked. "To prove you meant what you wrote in that letter." Heat flooded through her. "Raphael, you wrote that you wanted me to make you mine," he said, stopping at the door and turning to face her. "Well, I'm giving you one more chance to change your mind. Because once we cross this threshold, Sonia, I'm not letting you go. Ever." She looked up at him, at this man who'd terrified her a week ago, and now made her feel safer than she'd ever felt in her life. "Then stop talking," she said, "and prove it." His smile was slow and dangerous. He opened the door. Epilogue, 3 months later. The wedding was small by royal standards. Christy died 2 weeks before the ceremony, but not before extracting a promise from Sonia to wear her wedding crown. Sonia wore it. The council protested. The nobility whispered. But Raphael stood beside her at the altar and said his vows like they were the only 2 people in the kingdom. And when he kissed her, the entire cathedral erupted in applause despite themselves. Now, 3 months into her reign as queen, Sonia stood in the same throne room where Raphael had proposed. A young woman knelt in front of her, trembling. "Please, Your Majesty," the girl said. "My father is forcing me to marry a man I don't love. I have nowhere else to turn." Sonia looked at Raphael, who sat on his throne beside her, his hand resting on the armrest near hers. He nodded slightly. Sonia turned back to the girl. "Tell me his name." "Lord Rodney Farley, Your Majesty." "And what do you want instead?" The girl's eyes widened. I want to choose for myself, to have time to find someone I actually care about." Sonia smiled. "Then you'll have it. Lord Farley will be informed that his suit is rejected by order of the crown, and you'll have sanctuary here until you're ready to make your own choice." The girl burst into tears. "Thank you, Your Majesty. Thank you." When she left, Raphael took Sonia's hand. "You're getting good at this," he murmured. "I had a good teacher." "Liar, you're a natural." She squeezed his hand. "I'm helping women who were me 3 months ago. That's all. That's everything." That night, in their chambers, Raphael pulled her close. "I got a letter today," he said. "From Blake Jordan." Sonia stiffened. "The guard?" "The guard you originally wrote the letter to." Raphael smiled. "He's getting married. To a baker's daughter. He wanted to thank me for stealing you away because apparently she's the love of his life." Sonia laughed. "So everyone gets a happy ending." "Not everyone. Clarence died last month. Me to make you mine. I'm simply honoring me to make you mine. I'm simply honoring your request." She turned in his arms to face him. "That letter was the best mistake I ever made." "It wasn't a mistake," Raphael said. "It was fate. The letter reached the wrong man, but he was the right one all along." He kissed her, deep and slow, and pulled her toward their bed. And Sonia thought, as she always did these days, that sometimes the best things in life came from the mistakes you never saw coming.